Alright folks, we are back. Seems like we had a bit of issue with YouTube as well. Hadn't started the stream. But yep, for those of you joining in and for those of you who waited patiently, thank you so much. It seems like we will have a re-host of the lobby, which makes it even better for us. Gives us more time to give you all a better experience. And for now, we are on hold as the drivers lobby up for the qualifying session all over again.
I hope my audio issues have been resolved at last. I had to join in through my phone.
Yep, we back. Glad to hear you loud and clear, Ruds.
Well, a lot of tweaking in the background, but ultimately it worked out.
Great. Great. And folks, we're back. Just like that, drivers have lobbied up. InShock qualifying will be underway momentarily. And Ruds has
Hopefully
no more
without any
audio
hiccups.
issues. Yep, exactly.
Exactly what I was trying to say.
Yeah, precisely. Should be good to go. Yep, we are in. 16 drivers out on track. Thunderbird stepping in for the McLaren boys. Gambler stepping in for the Alfa Romeo boys. And so, okay, not just Gambler. We got D Avocado in the Alfa Romeo as well. That's great.
Yep,
to see.
indeed. Alfa Romeo had to go for a double driver substitution, as both their first team drivers were not available for this weekend, and maybe the next one as well.
Interesting. And as I was saying earlier on, Sicknig seems to have prepped the most for this race. I've been hearing from the likes of Gouts as well that Sicknig is the most prepared going into this race weekend. He has been in the front of the pack alongside his teammate more often than not in the last couple of races. So it'll be interesting to see if he can keep that good run of races going.
It will be crucial of how those performances affect the Constructors' Championships, because it is definitely heating up in the top three.
They've taken over the lead itself, Racing Point. Sicknig and KDB doing a mighty job. And even the driver's title is not too far off anymore. He's a point away. I mean, yeah, he's just a point away from General Pepe, who's had a not so great run of races, some might say. I think last race, the mistake in Italy cost quite a bit for him. It saw him finish outside of the points, or perhaps grabbing just a couple of points.
Yep, it was just a couple of points, and it is really starting to affect not just his own championship fight, but also the team's championship fight. And we must not forget that Haas at this stage are almost fighting with one driver versus the two drivers from Racing Point. So they are severely on the underpowered side for both the championships.
Unfortunate for General Pepe in specific. He's been giving it his all, trying to give his all race on race, clearly. Regardless of KDB missing out on a couple of races, how close he's been to General Pepe. Sector 3 goes yellow. Pretty sure just a car going incredibly slow. Let's talk about the Ferrari boys, Ruds, X356 and Gouts. Realistically speaking, their idea of what a good weekend looks like is points finish. Both cars in the points, which they've been managing to do in the past couple of races. In Italy, maybe not, but in the races before, they have definitely. So going into this race, they'll be hoping for the same, I'm sure.
Yeah, and they did manage to score a double points finish in Italy, so that is some silver lining. We had Gots P7 and Wix P9 in Italy.
I stand corrected then.
Yep, and they also had a double points finish in Belgium with Gots P6 and Wix P10. So there seems to be a trend, and they are on the rise, but I think that it's just a bit too late to have any sort of mega impact on their championships.
Unfortunate for them. If only X356 had gotten to grips with the wheel earlier on. Then again, things take time. RB Ferrero.
Yeah, but at least it is
go
good for Gots, because he sits P10 in the Drivers' Championship, so he has been having a good solo season to speak of, at least.
Looks like there's a car there, Alfa Romeo, seemed like had gone into the barriers, but might have just missed it and waited for the other car to pass by. Accelerate first driver to set a lap time in. He was on the podium last season, 1 minute 39.638, clearly way off the pace, as KDB sets a 1 minute 36.939, and now KDB's time, okay, that was SV11 who set the 1 minute 36.939. Clearly the AlphaTauri seem to be out of pace, as KDB sets the fastest lap so far, 1 minute 34.995.
Well, it's kind of impressive to see how Sicknig has been able to qualify within 1 second of his teammate, because it is very crucial to start as close as possible to each other while having the chance for an alternate strategy. and I think something just clicked. Like there was a switch which turned on at the season half, and Racing Point are now on a mission.
Definitely. And I'm curious to see if KDB takes the lead of the championship after this one, because it's highly likely that he does. Then again, General Pepe, the only driver out there who can stop him.
There
It'll be
is a
super
chance. All
interesting to
KDB
see.
has to do is finish above General Pepe, and he's the new WDC leader.
BRL DC. So it's,
Well, if I may, you know, be a bit cheesy, I would say that for these drivers, BRL is their world, so it is WDC at the end of the
fair
day.
enough. Indeed. Even though we didn't see UK out on track, his tactics are pretty popular across the grid, clearly. Horning out on the intermediates, laid down some rubber, and seems to have gone back into the pits for a change of tires.
We might just see the start of a new trend, Arthur, and I don't doubt it that Horning will be the only one to do that by the time the season ends.
It almost seems like Renault and Red Bull are racing up ahead. RB Ferrero steering clear, however, of Mr. Vex, who is on a fast lap. General Pepe has a lap time, but that's definitely not his best. 1 minute 41.117, probably his warm-up lap right before he goes.
Could be a banker, definitely.
Alfa Romeo coming on track as the Racing Points pit. Which 356 on a fast lap, so let's stay on board as he goes through sector 2.
I think BRL has a knack of mimicking the real life Formula One. If you have noticed that, we've had plenty of incidents like that in the past, and now the kind of battle that Verstappen is having with Hamilton is the kind of battle KDB is having with General Pepe. If you notice,
Yeah.
while the Red Bull and Mercedes battle is the same as the Racing Point and Haas battle. You cannot write the stuff up.
Beautiful comparisons between Bwoah Racing League and real Formula 1. Sector 2 seems to have gone yellow. One of the drivers going slow in that sector. Gouts sticking to the mediums. Seems like he wants to start the race on the mediums.
That would be a good strategy, to be honest, and it is a street circuit, so you are not entirely dependent on pace, so things might just work out if you manage to get into the top 10 on the medium.
Earlier on, right before qualifying started, we had the drivers do a couple of practice 5-lappers. They were practicing 5-lappers, and seems like they've made it pretty evident that saving ERS around this track is pretty difficult.
You can't save ERS, you can't generate ERS. Your battery is essentially a dead weight to your car on the Singapore track. It's so difficult to find those like Singapore barely has any hard braking zones, to be honest, which is why your battery is as good as non-existent. But I think we may see some shady conversion of the batteries conversation, and be prepared for some late last lap. That's for sure.
All right.
The fastest laps will be decided in the last few laps. That's my prediction. The first prediction of the day.
We're just over 9 minutes left into Shaw qualifying. And General Pepe on a fast lap, possibly his first competitive time on the board as he goes through sector 3. Has invalidated his lap in the process, so clearly we won't be seeing that time on the board. 1 minute 34.995 from KDB still remains the fastest.
He is on another outlap though, so maybe this might be his final last lap, so to say. Maybe the second last.
Possibly. RB Ferrero.
You don't want to waste your tires if you don't have to. That is one rule in Singapore. You need to be kind to your tires.
And RB Ferrero cruising on his outlap is the driver right behind him with the third fastest lap time, trying to set a better fast lap himself. Sick Nick. We had Big Man Joe
And-
Accelerate and KDB on the podium last season around. This season we got Accelerate being 10th fastest. KDB still keeping his pace from last season, fastest. And Big Man Joe not out on track. You want to make a prediction, Ruds? Maybe somebody new on the podium, perhaps?
I was hoping you wouldn't ask me that, but now that you have, I can't avoid it.
You come after 3 races and you expect not to be asked that question from me, Ruds?
I mean, I was more towards the it's Singapore, so you better not ask me side, but fair enough.
I'll tell you who'd enjoy being on the podium. Regardless, anyone would. But Mr. Vex specifically because, it's his track. He loves this track and he's technically come out of retirement if you buy that from Mr. Vex.
Yep, and specifically for this track, so it's a big deal for Mr. Vex.
Yep.
If I would have to make a bold prediction going on nothing else, I would say the podium would be KDB, General Pepe, and RB Ferrello.
Okay.
In that order.
Yeah. So you're basically predicting what happened last season, right? The 3 title contenders on the podium. Because RB Ferrello,
Yep,
he's...
I think, yes.
Yeah, he's probably shy of 23 points from General Pepe, so he's not too far off either.
He's
in the fight.
RB Ferrello is just 19 points
19.
behind General Pepe.
Apologies.
Yeah, so it is a pretty close affair.
Meanwhile, in the chat,
Speaking of this Singapore track, by the way, Sarthak.
yeah, go ahead, Prince.
We won't have this track in real life, sadly. How are you feeling about that?
Yeah, it's a real bummer, isn't it? Every time they remove tracks such as Singapore, I was super disappointed. We didn't have Monaco in 2020, and now we did have Monaco this year, but yeah, missing out on Singapore. And I heard that there were rumors about going back to Mugello. I don't think that's a solid rumor, but just bringing it up regardless. That is.
I would like to see Mugello back. I mean, I got my Mugello fix for the year from MotoGP, so I'm all set. But I would love it if Mugello makes a comeback in F1 as well this season.
We'd love a lot of the, completely left field tracks which we don't usually get to see in a standard Formula One calendar. But yeah, missing out on Singapore is pretty sad. But it is what it is. It do be the times.
Yeah, at least one silver lining is Sebastian Vettel's record remains intact. So that's something to look forward to.
The Lion of Singapore can
Remains
stay
the Lion of Singapore.
Yep. Ferrero seems to be on a fast lap. He slowed incredibly, so clearly he won't be bettering his lap time. Give space for another car to fly by. 5 minutes left in shock qualifying, and in the chat, folks coming through, showing their appreciation to this track. Speaking of which, Mr. Vex highlighted how this will be quite the taxing race for the drivers. About 45 gear changes in a lap.
Yep, I think it is one of the most high-octane tracks for the drivers in particular, alongside Baku. Baku also has an incredible amount of gear changes. I think when we had Baku last weekend, the commentators for the real-life race said that they go through almost 90 gear changes per lap or something for Baku. It's very technical that way. And Singapore, at least in real life, drivers lose up to 3 to 4 kgs of their weight in one race session. So at least our drivers won't be doing that, thankfully, but the mental exhaustion will still be there.
And Vex seems to be flying, Rubs. And sector 3 goes yellow.
Well, he has to prove his exile from retirement, if I have to phrase it. So,
of course he has to. Oh, see, he flew right into the pits. I didn't expect that.
Ooh,
And almost
he
went
almost
into-
collided the pit wall, but I don't know if you noticed, but that was a DNF right there.
Yeah, gave me flashbacks of last season, in fact, when UK went into that specific part of the pit wall.
Yep, and I think Gotts did the same thing later in the race. There were 2 or 3 casualties of the exact same method.
Yep. On-board only Kapil. He seems to be quite competitive. His lap time has earned him 5th fastest so far. 3 minutes left into short qualifying. Let's remember what Ruth said, folks, earlier on, that last minute laps being set in, competitive laps in fact. You shouldn't be surprised.
Without a doubt. I think track evolution in Singapore is seriously overpowered. Drivers know that as the session progresses, the tire lays down so much rubber that your best laps will come in the last 2 to 3 minutes. The same holds true for the race as well. We'll start seeing better laps in the race, not only because the fuel is less, but also because the grip is exponentially good. That's one of the benefits of racing on a street circuit, you know. The roads call to you, if I have to be poetic.
Of course they do, don't they? And seems like Sector 2 is going to General Pepe as he sets in a purple sector. And he's the one flying out on track now. Might not get pole potentially, considering he's on the medium tires, but could possibly be in the top 5. What do you think, Ruds?
I think a top 5 quali from him is perfect given the strategy on mediums. Yeah, he goes P2, just as we spoke about it. He is 5 tenths behind KDB on a different compound of tire. So that should tell you how much that will help him during the race.
I'm sure this gets KDB a tad bit nervous about how much of a difference that strategy is going to make going into the race. Of course, it depends highly on safety cars as well, and the race hasn't even begun for that matter. But yep, 1 minute, just over 1 minute left into short qualifying. We've got half the drivers out on track, coming out on softs. Most of the drivers are on track. A while ago, we did see them out on the mediums, but it seems like most of them have stuck to the strategy, which will see them start on the softs.
Indeed, in the top 10, General Pepe and Gotts are the only 2 drivers to set times on the mediums. So ultimately, I think the strategy would come into picture, and Gotts and General Pepe can both finish higher. In case of General Pepe, it could be the difference between a race win and a podium.
And Sicknig, just as you say it, Sicknig just set a brilliant lap time, 1 minute 35.040. Now we are looking at a potential Racing Point front row lockout, but General Pepe still on a fast lap, goes to sector 3 as we speak. What do you reckon, Ruds? You think he can beat it? Split the Racing Points potentially?
It's open-ended. Sicknig is less than 4 tenths behind KDB, and General Pepe is almost 5 tenths behind.
He abandons his lap.
No. Yeah, I wouldn't have depended on that. But he would take the P3 any day. He has the advantage on the strategy, so he does not have to sweat it out.
I'm sure. We'll stay on board Mr. Vex, because it's either Vex, Thunderbird or Horning which can deny Racing Point their front row lockout. And Vex is going through sector 2. I believe both Racing Points are on fast lap themselves. Stay on board Horning as he goes to sector 3. The only Merc driver out on track. Freeze, his absence will impact the constructors' fight, I'm sure. They can't hope for a decent points haul as they always pull through race on race. But as he goes to sector 3, Horning.
I think whenever I think of Singapore, I first think of Horning because he was one of the best performers when we had the placement races, if you remember, for the new drivers this season.
Yeah.
And Horning blew it out of the park in Singapore before he was spun around.
Yeah. Speaking about blowing it out of the park, Mr. Vex just went 4th fastest, gets his spot on the second row, and with short qualifying ending, KDB, he's still on a fast lap. He's already bagged what is provisional pole. He's the one who will beat his own time. It seems like we're set for a Racing Point front row lockout, but let's just hold tight as KDB comes across the final corner, sets an even better lap time, 1 minute 34.191. It's the 3rd front row lockout in the history of Bwoah Racing League, and this time around it's the Racing Points, KDB and Sicknig.
he goes 5 tenths quicker on that lap, so he improved his lap by almost half a second. And I doubt the front row is like gonna be losing now. And I guess maybe we can see a front row in the next race. I'm getting that confident because of them.
This is brilliant. This is absolutely brilliant. What an improvement by Sickening. You know, this is someone who was trying to scrap off some points earlier on into the season. The first couple of races, he seemed like a P9, P8 finish would be his best. But yeah, the improvement he's made over the races, over the season, in fact, it's incredible. It's great to see. Clearly,
It's been a
reaping the
completely
dividends.
positive turnaround.
Really
And
fitting in
I
well.
think, yeah, I think the pressure or more the hope of winning the constructors makes not just the driver in him, but the team principal in him energetic as well, motivated.
Yeah, we'd
And I think that's playing a huge part.
Yeah, we'd like to think so. In that right. But yeah, he's fitting in well with that wheel, isn't he? Because most of the drivers did switch to the wheel. Seems like he's hit the sweet spot finally. Second fastest in qualifying. Front row lockout racing
Interesting
point.
how a change of your control method, a control scheme can do so much good.
Oh, gotta love sim racing for that. Unfortunately, we don't get to see the likes of Big Man Joe, Rocket Man, and UK out on track today. But we still can hope for an incredible race in our hands with the 16 drivers out on track.
It's been a while since we've not had all the 20 drivers on the grid. There seems to be a few omissions every now and then. But yeah, not all schedules are convenient to everyone.
Yep. For the 9 of you all watching, make sure you drop in the chat who you cheer for. Who do you think will come out on top at the end of this race? And possibly who will survive and not survive going into turn 1. Now I know I say this every race, but yeah, I've always been a bit worried going into turn 1. I mentioned this last race as well. They've been clean going into turn 1 this season overall, because a couple of folks will disagree with me, the likes of Rusty Nish, who've been caught off guard with a bit of bad luck at race starts. Yeah, hopefully we have a good race start. 30 seconds we will begin as Rusty Nish readies up. So will Sicknick and the rest of the boys. Gambler is possibly the only driver to have raced for 3 different teams in the league so far. I believe it's Red Bull, Racing Williams, as well as Alfa Romeo now.
Yep, and if he gets the chance to drive for his own team, which will be Alpha Tauri now, we had that change, of course. I would make it 4 teams. He'll be the Carlos Sainz of our grid.
Gambler. Quite the record he's made for himself in the league, hasn't he?
Yep.
Yeah,
His
and
driving is a bit on the aggressive side, and yeah, not the friendliest of duelers, but his tactic works for him.
quite the disagreement him and Big Man Joe had in one of the races this season. Regardless, they're on a formation lap now, the 16 drivers. Everyone beyond the 10th spot on the grid has decided to go for the mediums, as one would expect.
Oh. I am definitely curious to see how the soft runners will behave, because these softs will not last you more than 9 lap tops. You will be entering puncture territory after the 9th lap begins, whereas the mediums will almost go for twice the distance. Lap 17 is when you absolutely have to pit. So I think Janil Pepe and Goths are in a good position to capitalize.
Gouts, however, it has been thrown down to P11. Okay, still close in the points.
So that's a free strategy for him.
Yeah.
He could even start on the hards if he wants to. And that is 28 laps sorted.
That would be one crazy strategy, wouldn't it be? Roads.
Yeah, 31 laps, hards for the 28 laps, and then softs for the final
Yeah.
5, 4 or something in
Two.
Wow.
2 laps. No, 3. Sorry.
Yeah.
3 laps. Final 3 laps. Softs.
I hope the drivers are
get-
thinking what we are thinking.
Yeah, and nab the fastest lap in the process.
Definitely an opportunity. So the 6 drivers, if you are somehow listening to the commentary, P11 to P16, you might want to take a look at the hards, but I think it's too late to tell them now.
Just managed
Foolish
to,
us.
yeah, managed to survive, or possibly considering they're still on their formation lap if they're listening to us, like just going to the pits after this, switch to hards, start from the back, hards, like push.
If
Mode
only
push.
F1 had the option to do that.
Mode push. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I keep forgetting
But
about that.
Interestingly enough, P11 to P16 are all on the mediums. And in the top 10, General Pepe is the only one on the mediums. So, yeah, I think we'll be seeing gods as high as P2 after a while.
Remember, we did see KDB and Big Man Joe possibly head to head, you could say, last season around this track for about 10 laps or so. More than 10 laps, but
Yes.
regardless, that was last season, Ruds. The 5 red lights, in fact, will go out. It's the Racing Point front row lockout, and the race has begun. And I see quite a bit of wheel spin at the back of the pack. And what a start KDB's got, sickening. Trying to hold off General Pepe and the likes of RB Ferrello. And I see Thunderbird tumbling down the order. I wonder what's gone wrong there. But quite a mini driver. Oh my god, I'm at a loss of words at this point. Thunderbird stumbled all behind, all the way back. What was that start?
I don't know if you caught that, Sarthak, but Thunderbird plowed into Horning and Rustiness, took himself and the 2 cars out directly into the pit wall.
Oh my god.
Now, I don't know
disaster.
what happened, but yeah.
Did he
So
take
the predicted pit stop strategy, by the way, Sarthak, softs will be between lap 5 to 8, whereas the mediums will be starting from lap 15 on towards lap 17.
Did he take Rusty Nish with him?
Yeah, I think what I saw, because I was on the helicopter cam, and what I saw was Thunderbird losing his rear end maybe, and just drifting left towards the pit wall and collecting Horning and Rustiness in the process.
That is so unfortunate because Rusty Nish has had a string of horrible race starts, and this is another one to that. Meanwhile, it seemed like Sicknick was trying to fend off General Pepe as much as he could in the race start, and he did a mighty job for sure. But now General Pepe is running within half a second of Sicknick on his gearbox almost, soon enough at least, as KDB will try and extend that gap to Sicknick. Oh, he loses his rear quite a bit.
Yep, I was just about to point that out, but to be honest, General Pepe does not have to push. He could just follow Sicknick and be okay with that, because the tire compounds are different. They are running different races, so he doesn't really have to fight Sicknick.
5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane for accelerate, and Sicknick might have just glitched because on the board it says he's running P5. Meanwhile, out on track, he's clearly still running P2.
Yeah, I think it's his AI being controlled for the time being, which is why there might be an issue. Oh nope, it's F1 doing F1 things.
Oh yeah, they've gone ahead and done it yet again, haven't they? It's Thunderbird leading this race according to the game, but clearly
Never thought we'll see that this season, Sarthak. Thunderbird P1. Oh,
we didn't expect to see Thunderbird out on track at all this season.
yeah.
But KDB clearly leading this race, Sicknick right behind, and hungry for position, General Pepe trailing them as well. RB Ferrero in the mix, glad to see that. Mr. Wex has lost 2 positions ever since the race started. Only Kapi in a rather competitive position up in a P7.
P5 actually, Sarthak, I think, because on my screen it was showing, okay, now it just shows
P6.
Horning as P1. Okay, now it's all sorted.
Or-
My god, that was a emotional roller coaster.
It's the thing with this game, it's always an emotional roller coaster. Even if you're spectating or even if you're in a car.
And we still come back to it, so can't really complain, can we?
But regardless, back to the race. Rustiness seems to be incredibly close on Thunderbird and D'Avocado. closing in on the two drivers who seem to be battling for position. 3-second time penalty in the process for Thunderbird. Fortunate to see accelerate down in P15. Up ahead, however, RB Ferrero closing in on General Pepe as he closes in on Sicknig. A very textbook strategy, you might say, by the Racing Point drivers. Sicknig holding off General Pepe as KDB tries to extend that gap. It was just over 2 seconds and now it's closing in on the 3 seconds range. I'm pretty sure General Pepe is a tad bit infuriated, but like you mentioned, Rids, he doesn't really need to push right now.
Yeah, his General Pepe's target honestly should be KDB and how far KDB is, and it's around 3 seconds, just over 3 seconds. So as long as the pit stop duration, I think in Singapore a pit stop is maybe 20-22 seconds of time lost. So as long as General Pepe can keep within that time of KDB, his pit stop strategy will help him go to the end and get P1 as well in the process. But a lot can happen in 28 laps.
Of course it can, but seems to be working in the favor of Racing Point so far. The gap has extended to over 3 seconds between KDB and Sicknig. Meanwhile, down in the points is Guts and Gambler, P9, P10 and P9 respectively. Hyrox 24 closing into those points positions as well. Gambler closing in on a driver in the league who possibly has a relatively similar driving style to him, SV11.
Oh, but that is a battle I would pay to watch, let alone commentating on it.
But there's a battle in front you don't have to pay for. Ruds. General Pepe just made the move on Sicknig. I'm sorry to cut you off, buddy, but Sicknig seems to be encountering incredible issues because he's just lost position to General Pepe and he's got RB Ferrero to worry about on his gearbox.
Yeah, I was watching that move live while talking, Sardak, so I definitely saw that move happening. It was pretty spicy, and now he has so much open air, just clean air to try to cover up the gap to KDB.
This is something they were afraid of and wanted to prevent from happening, I'm sure, the Racing Point boys. But knowing KDB, he'll have another trick or two up his sleeve. RB Ferrero, however, his mission right now is to make sure he gets the move done on Sicknig sooner than later.
He's awfully close, and I think he could get the move done coming on towards the main straight. DRS is enabled, so he can now try to get the move done on any of those straights with DRS. Yeah, I think it would be futile from Sicknig to battle it. It would cost him time as well as RB Ferrero time.
And on the main straight they come along. Pit window opens up for the two-stop strategy for those who are on it, and I highly doubt anyone will be going in.
Well, one of them is in, and that is Wix 356.
Interesting. And I wonder if he'll come out on anything apart from the medium. Seems to be coming out on the hards. We got someone possibly
as
listen
expected. Thunderbird 3 second time penalty, and I think all the soft runners will pit for the hards because the mediums will not be enough to get them till the end of the race. They have a tire life of 16 laps, and I don't think they would like to run a two-stop strategy.
Meanwhile, in the midfield, we've got quite a battle. Gouts, SV11 and Gambler. I think Gouts got the move done on Gambler and SV11 within a couple of corners. So I'm pretty sure he'll be taking me to task for missing out on that footage.
All the back markers, the last 4 back markers to be precise, have penalties of various degrees. And yeah, all of them are on 5 seconds except Thunderbird, who's on 9 seconds. I think that added penalty is because of his collision as well as the track limit warning.
Glad to see Rusty Nish coming up in on the board as we've got a spin, and yes, that's Gambler, I believe, in sector 2, just in the entrance of sector 3. seems to have spun. He reset on the track real quick. I think that was when he was battling SV11.
Could be. SV11 is right there at his gearbox, but he's held his own so far.
And we got two drivers pitting as we speak. Rud Sicknick and Mr. Vex into the pits together. Hards are on. 3-second time penalty for Vex 356.
Gamler and SV11 pit as well. So now is where we'll start seeing all the front runners pop in.
Everyone coming out on the hards. Sicknick maintains that position in front of Mr. Vex. We got Rustiness running P7 as sector 2 and 3 light up yellow, and I think that's an Alfa Romeo. Oh no, it is an Alfa Romeo. It's Avocado. Seems to have retired from the session.
Yes, he has. He is going slow. We could watch it from KDB's perspective. Seems to have. Oh,
Yep, right there. Gone into the wall. Yeah, the Avocado has left the session. Yeah, clearly he's had a not so great race. Our first retirement of the race ends up being a Ferrari. No, Alfa Romeo.
Well, Ferrari
apologies.
powered, so you're not entirely wrong.
But no, Vex 356 and Guts will hold me accountable for that. Then I expect a Ferrari to DNF ever so often. Regardless, Aubrey Ferrero gets 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Not something you'd expect from someone like Ferrero.
I think it might have been a freak accident on his part, maybe a little bit of misjudgment.
Only Cuppy pits as well, and Rusty Nish, just like that, goes up into P5.
And might I divert your attention to the top two, Sarthak? General Pepe is right behind KDB.
Oh, but I must jump right back to the bottom of the pack because Horning seems to have lost a couple of positions. I wonder why. I think he had a bit of contact with Gambler, but back with you, Ruds, right up there, KDB and General Pepe.
KDB is at a serious disadvantage because not only is he pitting before General Pepe, he will also have to go for the one pit stop strategy in case he wants to stay in the fight for the win.
Are Racing Point drivers hoping for a possible safety car to help their cause?
I doubt the safety car would help because General Pepe will also go on the hards once he's done with his mediums, but he'll have fresher hards than the Racing Point and frankly rest of the grid. So I doubt the safety car would do much to help them.
Meanwhile, Gulch running P3 effectively, and KDB has General Pepe on his gearbox. He weaves to the right, peaks around the outside. He still wants position regardless of his advantage on strategy. General Pepe on the gearbox of KDB will peak down the inside. This time around they'll be going wheel to wheel through sector 1. Possibly, no, General Pepe holds back. He's being cautious. He knows a mistake cost him the race last time around. He won't be making that same mistake twice in a matter of 3 weeks and gets that position in the process. General Pepe leads this race.
General Pepe had ERS as well, whereas KDB, I could see his rear light blinking, so he has already used up his battery juice, I think, before lap 10. So that is going to be a very painful recovery session for KDB, not having any battery power. Oh, there he goes cutting the corner, and it's 3-second time penalty for KDB.
Yeah, things
the
can't
last
get
thing
worse.
he would have wanted.
Things can't get worse for KDB. Sorry for that awful noise. My mouse just decided to drop. But
Yeah, I think it was done with the race. Couldn't stand KDB's pain.
Don in the chat asks who's the Haas driver. Well, you came at the right time and asked the right question, Don, because General Pepe leads this race and he is the Haas driver.
And if you're referring to the second Haas driver, we don't have one for today.
Unfortunately.
So yeah, those points will mean a lot to the team and to General Pepe as well.
To think that all this happened up until lap number 8. So clearly we've got quite the race in store. I'd say regardless of the fact that most of the drivers just have to be putting in those laps, those very, very clean laps to ensure they finish the race. No mistakes going into the next half of the race. Haven't even finished the first half, have we?
And my first prediction comes true. We have Gots in P2, and I'm happy.
Wait. When did you predict Gots in P2?
I did say that Gots will go P2 in the race.
Ruds.
I did not say finishing P2. I said he'll go P2 in the race.
Alright. You saved yourself there. You saved yourself there, Ruds. You saved yourself there.
No, I did say that Gots is starting on the mediums in P11, so we will see Gots at P2 at some point. And I was right.
Fair enough. We see IROC 24 as well, right up there. I'm pretty sure, in their heads they're going, stop the race. But yeah, clearly we've just started. It's lap number 9. And KDB did pit, and he's come out P5 on the hards, of course.
So that's his pit stops done for the race. One stop strategy. Thunderbird retires.
I wonder which part of the track, on main straight or pits?
No, he is in the pits. So I think that's him being done with the race. Too many penalties, not worth it anymore.
Fortunate to see another retirement in this race. Leaves 14 drivers out on track. Let's hope no more retirements. Closest driver to another is Siknig on Rusty Nish, and he weaves to the left. Trying to make sure that gap sticks in around the outside. He will try to attempt. Rusty Nish denies that overtake brilliantly and remains P6.
That was a little bit
too aggressive,
warm for my taste. Yeah. I was looking for some more polite words, but you just nailed it.
Yeah. But
Siknig did collide with the wall, by the way, Sarthak. I did hear the crunching sound of the wall.
A bit of contact I'd expect from that, but I'm not completely saying that was fine, but think about it, right? Rusty Nish has had this array of horrible race starts. Now he's finally in a good position, and he's got drivers who are competent enough to go wheel to wheel with right next to him, so he is gonna give it his all. So that's what we see him doing out on track.
For sure. The move might have been aggressive, but I don't think there was any damage to report. If there was damage, it was a whole different story.
He's trying one more time, Siknig. I did see him weave to the left. He's trying his best to make this work. ERS wise, I think Rusty Nish has the edge. So clearly we might not see Siknig have the advantage, but then again Rusty Nish still has to pick for a fresh set of hards.
We will see cars struggling with ERS, and I think for today's race, the ERS levels will make or break the race.
And IROX 24 goes off track while trying to get the move done on KDB. Meanwhile, Siknig right behind Rusty Nish, same part of the track where he denied that overtake. Rusty Nish still holds on to his position. Quite the battle we're seeing for P6.
Which will become net P2 almost once the front two runners, Harry Rocks and Rusty Nish pit.
Look at the gap General Pepe is carving out for himself. I mean, that 20-second gap to Gouts itself. He should.
This is before pitting. I think General Pepe will make enough time to actually pit and still come out in P1.
Looks like it, doesn't it? Should work in his favor. 3-lap old mediums on RB Ferrello. So last time he pit, the one where he racked up that speeding in the pit lane penalty, he came out on the mediums.
So that's a 2-stop strategy. Pretty bold.
Interesting to see Red Bull going a bit left field as SV11 racks up a 3-second time penalty himself. Down the order, however, We got Horning running P13. For those of you wondering what TTV means, it means Twitch TV. So if you want to show your support for Horning, make sure you go and search up Horning on Twitch TV. You'll find this channel there. He's on the tail of Accelerate. This should be interesting.
They are approaching a DRS zone after a few corners, so I think Horning could make a move there on Accelerate.
But up ahead, this gap is not going to reduce anytime soon. I mean, become bigger anytime soon, because Sicknick on the tail of Rusty Nish. In the process, however, Sicknick does rack up time penalty, 3 seconds, and Hyrox 24 does the same while trying to close that gap to KDB.
And dives into the pit, so Harry Rocks will come tumbling down while others overtake him.
Vex is looking at Sicknick and Rusty Nish battling for position and saying, keep going at it, boys. I'm gonna pick both of y'all off.
Yep, he's bidding his time. He's just waiting to see who comes out on top so he can chomp on the next competitor.
Meanwhile, the driver who qualified on pole is currently running P4 as RB Ferrello closes in on Gouts.
Ooh, Vex has made a lot of time on Sicknick right there behind. So this is now a 3-way battle for P5. Really exciting stuff.
Yeah. And RB Ferrello gets that move done, and up into P2 he goes.
Yeah, those mediums are going to start dropping off anytime soon. I think lap 15 is when we'll start seeing General Pepe, Gods, and Rusty Nish come into the pit.
But correction there, Ruds, because General Pepe is in the pits right now.
Oh,
Fresh
so
set of
I
hearts.
think he's going to take hearts to their limit, which is a good option, to be honest. You don't want to lose time. Those mediums are getting slower every lap.
This means
Look at that. KDB taking him on the hards as if it was nothing. So, yeah, I think God should come in pretty soon.
General Pepe coming out in P4. The Gouts up ahead. RB Ferrello leads this race. That's the third driver to lead this race so far. KDB right behind RB Ferrello.
God's trying to maximize his lap. I think it will be good if this is his in lap, sorry. But yeah, I would not want to be out on those mediums anymore. Not advisable.
Meanwhile, while General Pepe made his pit stop, Sicknick got the move done on Rusty Nish, and in sector 1, Mr. Wex tries to make the move on Rusty Nish, locks up his front left in the previous corner to this one, but still within half a second of the Red Bull driver. And this time around, on his tail, gets the slipstream he needs, will peek down the inside, won't be able to get the move done, however. Yep, they got DRS. 3 cars got DRS, only copy as well. Loses a bit of his rear there, only copy. Up ahead, General Pepe gets the move done on Gouts as he goes into the pits, of course. Almost seemed like General Pepe got move done on track. But yeah, 13 laps on the mediums and Gouts pits for a fresh set of hards.
Rusty Nish dives into the pits as well. So, yep, within lap 15, all the medium runners are in.
The hard tires, Formula One's version of white walls, or white wall tires. If you know,
I would like that nickname. Yep.
Yeah. if everyone who are watching right now know about American muscle, in the 70s and 80s. I believe that was the time when white wall tires were popular.
Yep, they are a
Some
thing
muscle.
before the 90s. Yeah.
Low rider, there you go. That's what I was looking
Yes.
for. Low riders. So yeah, Guts
And if
comes
they're
out.
still confused, they can just watch the Cars movie, to be honest. The Cars movie has them, the first
Actually,
one.
yep. Cars. And just like how Lightning McQueen is red, we got Guts in the red car as well. He's come out P8, right behind his teammate, who's been on the hards for 8 laps now.
Ooh. Yeah, I think those hards will make it to the end. I hope they do.
So 3 laps, Ruds. The difference in tire life between General Pepe's and KDB's, 3 or 4 laps in fact. As it, yeah, 4 laps I'm pretty sure. That's going to be quite the factor going into the last couple of laps, isn't it?
Definitely. Despite the hards lasting for 28, you will start noticing a speed drop around lap 20 to 23, which is literally the last 2 laps of the race. So KDB will have a job on his hands of keeping General Pepe behind, or if General Pepe is ahead, then catching up to him.
Yeah, only copy at the back of the pack racks up a 3-second time penalty as he goes off track for a moment, takes off the runoff area, joins back on track. SV11 gets a jump in position as the Mercedes of Horning goes into the pits. Incredibly slow getting into the pit lane.
Maybe he didn't want to dive into the pit wall rather than the pit lane. We know how that pit entry is.
And he seems to be serving his penalty and will have a fresh set of mediums to work with for 16 laps.
So I think that Horning will be trying to take those mediums to the end. Definitely feels like it.
Up ahead, KDB has closed that gap to RB Ferrello, is within half a second of him.
Both of them losing their rear ends, which is odd. The dirty air working its magic. But I think there should be an overtake now. There could be an overtake now with DRS.
He's got everything he needs, KDB, and when he has everything he needs, he gets things done, but seems to have held back this time around. He got real close to RB Ferrero, didn't he? And RB Ferrero goes a bit wide into turn 3, I presume that was. Tries to peek around the outside. KDB won't have the momentum that he needs into the next corner. Will have to stay on RB Ferrero's gearbox as he goes through sector 1. And going into the next corner is his time to shine. RB Ferrero tries to close that gap quite a bit, but can't really succeed in that. Locks up the front left KDB, but gets the position regardless. He leads this race yet again. Good move by KDB there, regardless of the lockup. Hyrox 24 running P11, closing in on accelerate within half a second now. Largest gap out on track is clearly between Rustinish and Horning. However, these two go wheel to wheel, the Williams and the Alpha Tauri. Hyrox 24 and accelerate, late braking into that corner. Accelerate holds on to that position as Hyrox 24 tried peeking around the outside. Will have slipstream and DRS. And right behind he's got the other Alpha Tauri to worry about. Hyrox 24 tries to make sure he keeps it on track as they go through sector 2. Entering sector 2 in fact.
Harry Rocks in an Alpha Tauri sandwich, and that is not a position you like to be in.
On the gearbox of accelerate, it was the Haas boys responsible for the sandwich too often last season, but this time around it seems like it's the Alpha Tauri boys. Meanwhile, up ahead, Ruds, KDB's lost position to both RB Ferrello and General Pepe.
Oh, I didn't quite catch that. I wonder what happened. Seems to be a classic DRS train overtake.
And General Pepe goes wheel to wheel with RB Ferrello. Going into the next corner, locks up the front left. A brilliant defense, but pushes General Pepe off track. General Pepe has come back on track as well. It's a three-way battle. The three drivers fighting for the title. It's fighting for position in the Singapore GP. KDB gets the move done on RB Ferrello, and now they're in the order of the championship.
When I woke up today, I certainly did not expect this level of fighting between the title contenders. But here we are.
Here we are indeed. As they go through Sector 2, they're incredibly close. What a battle. I'm pretty sure possibly might get reviewed. That move by RB Ferrello, he did defend. Did seem like he didn't give much space for General Pepe, but regardless of going out on track, General Pepe weaved the car back onto track and held on to the race lead. Got the race lead, in fact, from RB Ferrello.
Yep, and now General Pepe on pressure tires in the lead. That's not a combination you would like to fight. I think KDB has to do his best to cement the P2 and then challenge for a P1. I don't think that would be an issue though, because RB Ferrello has one more pit stop to go.
Okay. And KDB had DRS, closed in a bit of gap to General Pepe. It's unfortunate to see KDB in a position similar to that of last season, where he's stuck in P2 with an element which will hold him back from taking that fight to General Pepe. But he peeks down the inside regardless and goes wheel to wheel with General Pepe. And he takes the race lead just like that. So clearly I stand corrected, but General Pepe, knowing him, will try to get the switchback done right. But it seems to have lost momentum in the process. Sector 3 lights up yellow.
Is that Harry Rocks? I think that's Harry Rocks. Yep, he had spun out, but he's back driving. Yeah, I think he's lost his front wing. Yep.
That bad roads. Oh, yep, completely. Half of his wing is gone, and he rushes into the pits for a pit
Yeah, he
stop.
actually collided with the wall as well. Almost damaged his wheel, the front right.
Unfortunate for Harry Rocks 24. However, his teammate is up in P6, having a steady P6, and has competition to worry about with 356 closing in. Regardless, I was referencing to KDB's performance last season around where he was in the realistic performance Williams, right behind the Alfa Romeo of Big Man Joe, and was stuck behind Big Man Joe for well over 10 laps in this race. So yeah, it did seem like it was a similar instance this time around as well. But clearly, I stand corrected. He's taken the race lead for now. For now.
And let's not forget that KDB does have the 3-second time penalty to contend with as well.
Indeed. He does. RB Ferrello has pit for a fresh set of mediums.
And he served his 5-second penalty as well. So now RB Ferrello is penalty free with the faster tire compound and 12 laps to go.
And as he wraps up that pit stop, Siknik goes up in a P3 and so does Vex in a P4.
Siknik and Mr. Vex should be easy pickings for RB Ferrello, but I doubt if he can make an impact for the front two and might have to contend with the third step of the podium today.
Realistically, that's not too bad of a position to contend for, considering the championship overall. But can he is the question.
Indeed.
How much will Siknik and Vex fend him off and keep their positions? How difficult will they make it for RB Ferrello?
Yeah, the difference of the tire compounds will definitely come into the picture. You have the quicker medium, and they will definitely not fall off the cliff because we barely have 12 laps to race either way. And those hard tires are on some laps, 12 laps for each.
Another driver on fresh mediums is Gambler down in P10. But he's got a 16-second gap to close in on SV11, who's got an even larger gap to close in on Gauts, which is over 24 seconds.
nice to see the two Ferrari cars in the points once again, and that is the trajectory they should be going on. If they manage to outscore the Alpha Tauri boys, SV and Accelerate, Ferrari can actually climb to P9. I know that sounds bad because but they are in P10. There's not any other way they can go.
Yep, and as expected, RB Ferrero on the gearbox of Mr. Vex as Mr. Vex locks up his rear left, if I'm not wrong, and RB Ferrero peeks around the outside. Mr. Vex finding it a bit difficult to find traction in that part of the track. And
you can just see the amount of rubber laying on the track, and it's just changing the dynamics of the car so much.
They go wheel to wheel, but RB Ferrero clear outright winner of that position, but goes wide into that corner, and Mr. Vex tries to go wheel to wheel and hold on to his position. Doesn't quite get it done, however. Will have to give up position to RB Ferrero regardless. RB Ferrero going wide on that part of the track. Almost seemed like Mr. Vex had a shot at getting his position back. Meanwhile, up ahead, Sicknig, 25-second gap to General Pepe, but running a steady P3. We'll be hoping for General Pepe to make mistakes. I'm pretty sure all drivers will hope for the other one to make mistakes just so they can get that tad bit of advantage going to the next couple of laps. 10 laps left into this race. 9 of you all watching, make sure you drop in the chat who you're here for. Who do you think will come out on top at the end of this? A lot of cars being ghosted. General Pepe laps both Hyrox 24 and Accelerate. Unfortunately,
I was just about to point out the fact that Hyrox is fighting with Accelerate.
Unfortunately when this happens, but it's part of the game, isn't it? Meanwhile, Gauts gets the move done on, no, not gets the move done. VixC56 goes into the pits, in fact, and racks up a 5-second penalty in the process. New front wings on, and new tires as well. Fresh set of mediums for the last 10 laps. It did seem awfully close between Hyrox 24 and Accelerate, but now the gap seems to have extended a bit. Now they don't have a driver who's in the front to bother them anymore.
VixC56 making his final pit stop. I wonder if he could gain a few positions by the time the race ends. Maybe P8 is the only realistic option for Vix.
Yeah, he should be able to get that done. However, closing that gap to his teammate will be quite the task. 9 laps left, and as it stands, you could possibly see, as long as all drivers keep it clean, this is your provisional race finish standings, isn't it, Ruds?
Yes, indeed. Although Ferrello has closed in the Sicknick, the gap is now less than 3 seconds. It was 7 seconds, almost 9 seconds when Ferrello came out of the pits.
That's the fastest lap time in the process. And on the gearbox of Accelerate is Hyrox 24. I'm wondering why he's now wheeling that car to the left and trying to peek into that gap, possibly shake Accelerate up a bit. He's running P12 and Accelerate.
I think the DRS zone should help him, but the exit was just compromised.
Fortunate for him. Meanwhile, up ahead, General Pepe's gap remains 2 seconds to KDB.
Although it has reduced, it was 2.7 2 laps ago, and now it is almost less than 2 seconds.
On the ERS front, however, KDB seems to be storing ERS quite well compared to General Pepe. He's down to 11% or so. Meanwhile, KDB is into 25%. Again, too early to say anything. How the last couple of laps will unravel itself.
Yeah, we could chuck it on the effort General Pepe is having to make to keep up to KDB. Dirt air around Singapore can be a real pain, and it's not easy to follow cars over here.
And on the note,
hopefully the 2022 cars make it better.
Yeah, I mean, I'm super excited for 2022. I'm pretty sure every F1 fan out there are excited. But yeah,
I'm really curious.
Clearly, Vixie56 didn't have to wait for long to get that jump in position, Ruds. He's up in a P8 already.
Yeah, but I think the 28-second gap is just a bit too much to cover in 8 laps.
Big Man Joe's in the chat and he says Pepe playing it smart. I think he let the move happen. He's on fresher tires, and KDB has that 3-second penalty. So yeah, maybe General Pepe is playing it safe. After last race, maybe that's the way he should be going.
Yeah, frankly, all he has to do is stay within 3 seconds of KDB and he wins the race. So he does not have much to lose. It's KDB who has to do his best to ensure that he is that much ahead of General Pepe.
And SV11 meanwhile loses another position to Gambler this time around, who's stepping in for the Alfa Romeo boys. Running P9.
Albi Perillo is P3 as well, Sarthak. We missed the move on Sicknick, but he's comfortably ahead.
Brilliant stuff. And
although he's 31 seconds behind General Pepe, so
then one thing's for sure, the similarity from last season, that the 3 title contenders will be on the podium.
And I pray that it stays that way, because that makes my podium prediction also correct. I did predict KDB, General Pepe and RB Perillo, so I hope it stays that way.
I'll give you that one, Roots. I remember that one. But Gouts in P2, I'm still a bit skeptical about that.
We might have to run the stream back, and you will see I will say that during the formation lap.
When I'm searching for key overtakes, clipping videos and whatnot, I'll do that. Yeah.
Yep, it's on the formation lap. I'll help you out by that much.
Alright. Fair enough. Meanwhile, Accelerate running P14 seems to have lost the place to Rusty Nish as well. Disappointing to see Accelerate so far off, but then again, he's been pretty vocal about the fact that he isn't putting in much practice, which is disappointing considering he was fighting for the title last season around. He was on the podium in this race. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be the case this time around. He's on 4-lap old hards with a penalty as well, so I don't think there's any instance, apart from a possible safety car or something, that will see him get a jump or two in position. Meanwhile, Gouts closing that gap to only copy within a second of him right now.
I was just about to mention that, and in a good position, Gouts, to maybe gain top 5, provided Mr. Vex's hards fall off the cliff in maybe 3 laps.
Possibly. 17-lap old hards, both Sipning and Vex. And KDB entering that territory as well. 3-second time penalty. Speaking of, Mr. Vex racks up.
Interesting, because Gouts does not have any penalties so far, and Mr. Vex has 6 seconds worth of penalties. Only Kapi does 2, so Gouts can technically claim P5 if he lands up within 6 seconds of Mr. Vex.
He can, and if he keeps that steady run going, with 6 laps left, you'd expect him, with a couple of mistakes of course from Sicknick, possibly compete P4 as well. Again, I'm being a tad bit too optimistic, some might say.
But never say never, because Sicknick is also on 6 seconds worth of time penalties. But he is pretty far at the moment.
Yep. As it stands, the driver with the closest gap. Rusty Nish seems to have left the session while running P13. So, yeah, possibly this opens up a bit of an opportunity for Accelerate to get that jump on Rusty Nish. However, that won't make much of a difference considering it isn't a points finish. However, if Rusty Nish was running P10, I'm pretty sure he would have been really, really mad at himself.
Indeed.
Gauss doesn't have to fight this, taking a risk, says Big Man Joe. Indeed, but we know how Gauss is. He'd like to get as much of an advantage as he can.
I think the fight is more to get within 6 seconds of Mr. Vex rather than fighting with Kapi. But Kapi is holding him back, which is the reason why Gauss has to push so much. The gap to Mr. Vex was 6 seconds until a while ago, and now it is 7.3 seconds. So yeah, not good news for Gautam.
He's got DRS. Won't be able to get the move done on the main straight, however. And I don't think he'll be able to get it done elsewhere as well. Tries to peek down the inside, but only Kapi's got a brilliant racing line and sticks to it. Positions don't change regardless of the gap being so small. 8 of you all watching, make sure you drop in the chat to show your support for the drivers. And yes, Roots, tell me.
Could be a move by Gautam right now, or decides not to dive in. Oh, he does. He does. Let's see who gets the better traction.
Seems like only Cup is glitching. At least on my screen it did. Because I saw them
well,
go...
it didn't glitch for me, but he almost took out Gautam's front wing. So...
Alright, because it did seem like a glitch cool, considering they were wheel to wheel and something happened and all of a sudden only Kapi has extended that gap to just over half a second. Vex is
like one yellow flag and looks like Fawning has spun. Yes, he has.
Fortunate for him, he's not having the best of races, is he? His front wing looks intact, so not much to worry there. He won't have to force pit stop. He is running P11, however. 6 second time penalty, 17-second gap. I don't see him finishing in the points, so yeah. Oh, Mr. Vex stumbles down the auto. Maybe you caught that better, Roots. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just about to say that Mr. Vex is just half a second ahead of Onikapi. I wonder what happened, and then I see him spinning on the bridge.
Oh, he lost.
And
yeah.
Yep, he lost his lead and the 2 positions.
I think his front wing says the rest, doesn't he?
Yep. RB Ferrello pit once again. Sarthak, he's P4 now, 12-second faint technique on the soft. So I think this is the ploy to get the fastest lap and 1 extra point in the championship.
It is, isn't it? He's gone in running P4 and will hope to close that gap. Which means your prediction might end up being not true, Ruds.
Sadly, I did not count the fastest lap. I mean, I did mention the fastest lap, but I forgot to factor that in. And yeah.
But knowing
I have the best of both worlds.
But how much of a chance is it that RB Ferrello is telling himself, let's try and close this 10-second gap to Sicknig in a matter of 4 laps? It's an impossible feat. Let's be honest. 3 laps in fact.
Almost impossible. He'll have to catch around 3 seconds per lap.
Yeah.
Which is not an easy feat to do.
But I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, why would he give up a podium position for fastest lap?
Although all he has to do is cover 3 seconds or 4 seconds to be safe in 3 laps, because Sicknig has a 6-second time penalty.
And guess what, Rhodes? It looks like General Pepe will be trying to attempt the race lead jump in, okay, what am I even saying? A jump in position on track rather than getting the race win by post-race penalties in the last couple of places.
He can definitely do it because he does have the fresher tires on his side, and he has a penalty to fall back on. KDB's penalty, albeit, but still.
Yeah. And he's closed that gap already. Only Kapi and Gauts going wheel to wheel, and only Kapi is glitched and seems to have disconnected as well now. He's just glitching and glitching. Anyway, regardless, back to the fight. Up in front, General Pepe closing in on KDB.
Well, guess what, Sarthak? RB Ferrello has covered 5 seconds in a single lap. Am I seeing this correctly? Wow.
So he'll get
I
what he
guess we
wants.
underestimated RB Ferrello in that Red Bull.
He'll get what he wants, he'll get what he needs. His team needs as well. Unfortunate to see Rastinish not finishing in the points. 3-second time penalty for Mr. Wex. Slipstream, he's got it. Peeks around the outside. General Pepe wheel to wheel on track with KDB. Gets it done and will make it stick. General Pepe leads this race on the 29th lap. That 3 seconds on KDB
I'm trying not to
didn't
laugh
really matter.
watching the Wex in the middle of these two.
Mr. Wex.
These
Well-
two are trying to fight for the race lead, and here Mr. Wex just goes like, I'm gonna do my own race. I don't care who's fighting whom.
Evidently 1 minute 38.354 fastest lap for RB Ferrero.
Well, he got what he wanted, and I think he'll actually manage to overtake Sicknick as well before the race ends. Imagine the difference of speed between the hard compound and the fresh soft.
Yeah. And RB Ferrero's skill to put in those perfect laps, which counted for everything. On the gearbox is Sicknick, not for long I'm sure. Main straight, I'm gonna call it, is where the move will be made. What do you think, Ruds? Oh,
No, I think it should be
main.
sooner.
We did. Forget it, Ruds. Forget it.
I was going for the DRS straight at the end of sector 2, but they did it in the straight before that.
Oh.
I think Sicknick let him because he knows it's
Yeah.
not worth fighting it
No
anymore.
more fighting, yeah. But Gouts finally overtakes a glitching only Cuppy out on track. But then again, we don't know how it was for Gouts from his POV. But yeah, Gouts up into P5.
And we are very happy to see that. Gods for the WDC next season.
Next season.
I mean, we could say this season, but since the front runners are working so hard, we might as well give them that, you know?
KDB's pit for a fresh set of softs as well.
Oh.
So he wants that fastest lap. Not gonna
Every point counts, Sarth, like every point does, and KDB knows it.
Sector 1 lights up yellow and it's
One
honing.
again.
Yeah.
Oh, he's broken his front wing this time, the left side.
Oh, he's struggling to keep it on track. But regardless, back to Jai Pepe. Meanwhile, Mr. Wex gets the move done on SV11. They go wheel to wheel through sector 2, and he'll hold on to that position on the softs. Evidently, Mr. Wex up into P9.
Well, his retirement did not go in vain. Wex will end up collecting points.
Sector 2 lights up yellow, and I wonder who that is. It is Horning.
Horning once again,
Retired.
and he had to retire, yeah.
Let's stay on board Gods to catch a glimpse of Horning, possibly in the next corner. On the right hand side. No, oh, okay, another car went off track, and it was only Cuppy, or was that another glitch of his? He's lost an end plate.
I think
though.
that was another glitch.
He's lost an end plate, Ruds. And looks like X356 will indeed get that position jump more than just Gambler. He's, considering he's running P7 and only Cuppy, losing the end plate will cost him that position possibly.
Well, it is the final lap, and I think SV will take P9, Sarthak, because Mr. Wex has 9 seconds worth of penalties, while SV is just on 3 seconds.
Meanwhile, sector 2 and 3 lit up yellow for just a brief moment. Where is our race leader? He's entering sector 2.
The alternate strategy comes big, Sarthak. Those medium to hard strategy was really beneficial. And keeping a clean race, it was relatively easy for General Pepe today.
And 3 second time penalty, X356 ended up racking up at the end. Unfortunate for him, he's on the verge of making a move on only Cuppy. Meanwhile, General Pepe enters sector 3. What a race he's had, huh, Ruds? I'm pretty sure everybody else is saying as expected, nothing surprising. But still.
Yep.
Yeah. Last lap move from X356 on only Cuppy as he gets a bit of contact, so X356 holds back. But all eyes on General Pepe. 17 laps on the hard tires to wrap it up. Comes across the final corner. New race win record as General Pepe wins the Singapore GP of Bwoah Racing League Season 4. 8 race wins. Since the start of BRA
KDB
season
still
3.
does not have the fastest lap, by the way, Sarthak. So this is make it or break it for KDB.
And he's coming along the final 2 corners. Ooh, losing a bit of rear.
I think he's getting it.
Yep,
Yes,
1
he
minute
does.
37.364. Duly. P2. And will remain P2 in the standings. Looks like there won't be change in the driver's standings. And your prediction, Ruds, sticks.
Yep, almost. Now, I actually don't remember if I said John Pepe was P1 or was it KDB, but whatever it might be, I came close.
Yeah, I
Either
let
way.
you go on that one. As RB Ferrello weaves that car on the main straight, finishes a brilliant P3. Good points haul for RB Ferrello in the standings as well, so should remain still in contention as well.
Sad to see him miss out on the fastest lap, but at least he remains in the podium places and somewhat in the fight.
Sicknig finishes P4. As always, good points
Really
haul
impressive.
for the Racing Point. Guts P5. And that is the end of the race. Racing Point and Ferrari had quite the race, constructors wise. And driver of the day to our good friend Guts. How he gets it done, we'll never know.
100% deserved. Well, he went from P11 to P5.
Ends up pleasing the both of us every race, doesn't he, Ruds?
Yep, there's a reason why I consider him the driver champion.
Fair enough. He was someone who was saying whether he can finish or wouldn't be able to, in fact. So clearly he can. And P5, brilliant position. Nice to see him right up there.
For sure.
Yep. The game's decided to do what it always does and potentially thrown me out as well. Regardless, folks, for those of you who stayed till the very end, 7 of you all, thank you so much for coming by. Unfortunately, we don't get to see the podium and the virtual celebrations at least, but stay tuned for the post-race chat, which will drop either on Monday or Tuesday on YouTube itself. And thank you again for watching, Druds. Always glad to have you finally back.
I am really happy to be back. So yeah, same as always.
All right. Thank you, folks, and cheers. See you again for the next race weekend.